OK, let's get more on our top story this evening. The former Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson and the Home Secretary Sajid Javid both launching their campaigns today for the leadership of the Conservative Party to be Britain's next Prime Minister. Mr Johnson said he was not aiming for no deal, but he said the UK must prepare for it. And in a separate development, MPs have rejected an attempt by Labour to give MPs the power to stop a new Prime Minister, whoever it is, pushing through a no-deal Brexit against their wishes. So let's discuss all of those developments with Owen, who's a Programme Director on the Brexit Programme at the Institute for Government, a think tank working to make government more effective. Joe, thanks for being with us. Well, first of all, Boris Johnson in his pitch today was saying that he's not aiming for a no-deal outcome, but he's also saying that we have to really make sure that all the no-deal preparations are in hand, because that is a possibility.
Yeah, I think the majority of the leadership contenders are standing on a platform of renegotiating and having a deal in place for the 31st of October. Now, that looks like a huge challenge when you take into account, first of all, they've got to get the EU back around the table, and they've said quite persistently that they're not willing to do that. You then need to wrap it up with enough time to get the necessary legislation through Parliament, even if the whole negotiation could be done and dusted by the 1st of September. So when MPs get back from summer recess, legislation is plonked down, ready to go. They would have to pass it quicker than any really of the big EU treaties. The legislation required for them have been done in the past because there's this party conference recess. So there's only something like 20 parliamentary sitting days from MPs getting back at the beginning of September to the end of October. So it is really tight to try and get a deal through by then. The question then is, no deal versus extension. Would they be willing to extend for a little bit to get a deal over the line? Or if not, do we end up with no deal?
And people talk about no deal all the time. Paint us a picture of what it would look like.
Well, this is the really difficult thing to do because so much is uncertain. So there are three important factors in what no deal would look like. The first is how ready is government? Based on what little we've seen, there are some big challenges. Any of the reports from the National Audit Office suggest there are big issues. The second is how ready is the EU and what will the EU do? Everything the EU has said suggests they will take quite a hard line in areas like the border, and there's potential for quite severe disruption and big demands on UK traders for paperwork. And that's the third big component. How ready is business? The reason that government puts in place these systems is to support businesses. What we do know of business readiness is quite grim. In the run-up to March, HMRC thought only 1 in 5 traders had done the bare minimum thinking about no deal, and there's a huge risk that they're not really doing much more over the next few months. Businesses will say, we've seen government cry wolf twice before.
And they've already spent quite a lot of money making no-deal preparations.
Exactly, we've spent money in doing this, we've done our preparations. Do we want to stockpile again? Are we going to be able to do this in the run-up to Christmas? What guarantees are that there will be no deal? Because all of these contenders saying they prefer to leave with a deal, why would we invest? So there's a chance actually that we end up being less ready in October than we were in March.
Let's also talk then about Parliament and this attempt by Labour effectively to start the process of giving Parliament more power, stopping through some kind of legislation a no-deal Brexit. So they lost that today, Labour, by a few votes. Does that mean that Parliament will still try again, or do you think that it's not really going to be possible for it to have that power to stop a no-deal?
So lots of people point to the fact that Parliament voted overwhelmingly against no deal. But what this shows is voting against no deal in principle and then getting MPs to actually act and do something is a different prospect. And the opportunities for MPs to act between now and the 31st of October could be quite slim. Presumably, the government's not going to be offering them an opposition day to do what they did today again. They won't try that. Then there's the question of whether new legislation comes back. I mean, a lot of the opportunities that Parliament had in early this year with votes on trying to stop no deal, those opportunities have fallen away now. That process that we were in, that was defined by the European Union Withdrawal Act, that's no longer relevant if a Prime Minister is just intent on no deal and doesn't give MPs an opportunity to vote. So there are possible ways, manoeuvring, the role of the Speaker could come into question and what John Bercow does, but there are very few, looking at it now just procedurally, if any, real opportunities for MPs to do something tangible and to force government's hand in preventing no deal.
All right, Joe. Good to talk to you. Thank you very much. Joe Owen there from the Institute for Government.